Hello, and welcome back to another Paralives video. Today we're going to be doing something just a little bit different, and I'm going to be covering a lot of topics for Paralives, and just keeping in mind that most of what I'm going over today is more from the building aspect of Paralives. We're going to be covering things like settings, we're going to go over some basic controls in build mode, we're going to go through some cheats, the world, the lots, some things about walls and structure in the game, paint and surfaces, and what you can do with the game and customization. We're going to look at bugs and warnings, some mods and troubleshooting that I've been seeing a lot of people going over, and then I'll end us with some bonus Easter eggs, which has some pretty gnarly stuff in it. So buckle up because we're going to be covering a lot of stuff is all I'm trying to say. And before we get into this, I do want to say that obviously this is still not even 2 weeks with early access being released. So some of the stuff I go over in the video today might not even be applicable in the near future. And I already know like a couple of things that this might apply to. And on top of that, I'm obviously not able to cover everything in this video, but I would like to know at the end of the video, like what things I didn't cover that you think are really cool or that people should know about. But first, we're going to start off with the settings. So first of all, there is an autosave setting. I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I leave mine off. I do love the concept of an autosave, but there are some really gnarly bugs that have been happening right now that they are aware of, and they have come out and posted that they are aware of. One thing is when you're adjusting the walls, sometimes it will delete your floor and you can't get your floor back. So imagine that that happens and then your game auto saves and then you have to basically restart your house because the undo button also doesn't work all the time. But I would just leave that off and just make sure that you are saving constantly, kind of like we have to do in The Sims 4. But I personally think you should hold off on using autosave. Next, which is really funny, and I've already talked about it in my blueprint build videos, is that you can change the metric system that the game uses. So if you use the metric system and basically everywhere but the US, I feel like you can use that. And then we have the imperial system, which is what we're used to here in the US. And then there's also bananas, which is really funny. And I think this is because there used to be a trend where everything was to scale of a banana and it became a meme. And so they incorporated that into the game. And then you also have Texas, which is, I guess, like relative to the size of Texas. I don't fully understand the Texas one, but that's what I'm thinking. And right now we're in the dreaded loading screen. You can see here, I'm going to remove my face so you can see while it's long and they know that this is long and they want to try to improve this. The biggest pro about this is that this is the only loading screen that you really have to worry about because it's an open world. So I would rather have to sit through a little bit of a longer loading screen. And let's be real, some people were already having to sit through really long loading screens for The Sims 4. I would much rather just have this one loading screen. And then once you're in the game, you're in the game. You don't have to worry about going in between lots and having a new loading screen, going all the time back and forth between worlds. So as you can see for this one, you have meters. Then for the Imperial, you have the feet. I do wish that they would change this to make it more feet and inches. That way you're not having to convert inches if you are used to Imperial system. So it would make sense instead of like 10.2 feet if they made it like 10 foot 3 inches or something like that, so it would be a little bit easier to translate over. So each grid with the bananas is about 5.3 if it's not on a diagonal. 5.3 bananas per tile. And then with Texas, I don't even know how this would be useful, if I'm being honest. I genuinely don't. But it is really funny. I'm glad that they have some like humor with the game and the development. Now, the next thing I'm going to go over that I think is really cool is how you have different filters built into the game. And so you could like have an autumn filter. And this is basically like your reshade tool in The Sims. Now, I'm not going to say that they're all like the best options that you'd want to, use in the game, but it is pretty cool that they have something like this built into the game. That way you don't have to worry about like the weird mod files and having to go in and change your key bindings to do XYZ and go in and adjust them all. Now, if you want it to be that custom, you definitely can do it that way. But I really like that they already have some kind of pre-built-in features. Like this is really cool if you wanted to go with something a little more like eerie looking. Like in October, I might go with something like this when I'm playing this game or something. It's just kind of fun to have something like that in the game. And then they, of course, also have things for color blindness, which I think is really cool as well. That's just like a nice accessibility feature. Now, one thing that is off by default that I would recommend turning on is this ceilings cast shadows feature. And this is just so you actually have like indoor lighting and it's not the same as the exterior. Speaking of lighting, I do think it's cool that you also have this. Whereas in The Sims 4, you have to like either be in live mode at a specific time to get the light that you want, unless you filter through pressing L and changing it, but you only get like, I think it's 4 different light settings for that. So it's nice to be able to scroll through the time that you want. So with this turned off, just to show y'all, you could see it in the background a little bit. So it's as if you don't have a ceiling on the room, which I could see why maybe some people would prefer to play that way. I'm used to not having something like that. We're used to it being like a broken thing in The Sims, and obviously it's more shadowy if it is like that in The Sims, but I think it's a cool thing that they at least allow you to do it. And the last thing I want to show y'all are the key bindings. And really the only thing I want to touch on here is how you can go into photo mode with P. So it's kind of the same as going into tab mode in The Sims, just with like getting your pictures. I know a lot of us who like do a lot of videos and stuff like to have our thumbnail pictures. So photo mode is there for that. You can easily go out to the town map pressing M. And then the one cool thing is how you can toggle the grid on and off in build mode. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. I think for me, the biggest thing I want to touch on here is right now, the advanced transform tool is only available with the key binding of the asterisk, which is only if you have a number pad. And with my experience, I know there are gaming keyboards that have the number pad, but I feel like most of us don't use keyboards that have the number pad on them. And so I will go through later in the video how you can set a hotkey for this and change it, because in the game right now, there's no setting to do that. So I hope in the future that they add an easy way to change the key binding to access the advanced transform tool. And that's just because like if I click on this object here, you have to click and then click again to turn it on, and then click and click again to turn it off. But it's a lot easier if you're able to just press a key to turn it on and off. And I will go over a quick workaround for this soon. So I'm going to use this lot just as an example here, but one thing I want to talk about right off the bat obviously is the grid tool. Whenever you are in build mode, you press B, and whenever you are in this mode only when you're trying to build walls can you toggle the grid on and off. I've gotten so many comments on videos about people, well, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do this with the wall? So I do think there's a little confusion with that with people who don't have access to the game right now. One reason this came up as an issue is people were asking like why I didn't toggle it on, because the angle was ever so slightly off. But let's say that a wall was 3 meters, right? So whenever I'm going this way with squares, you can't do that. I'm holding down Alt, you still can't place it however you want because it's stuck to the grid. So I have to turn the grid off to get it to 3 meters. And then if I were to turn it back on, I'm stuck at the angles that they give me. I can't freely place it. So I think there's a little confusion with that. I just wanted to clear that up. It is kind of easy to get off with your angles a little bit because you can move it ever so slightly like this. And it says 90, but it's definitely changing in between because it's like 90.2, 90.3. And then whenever you buy lots, sometimes it comes with a lot of stuff on it. And the nice thing is that you can actually click to sell it. So you can actually buy a lot and then sell things on the lot to make extra money right off the bat, which is kind of cool. And then obviously on the subject without the grid, one thing that a lot of people know, especially by this point, is how you can literally place any object that you want for the most part, and you can resize it however you'd like to. So if I were to get this like end table right here, you can scale it up, you can scale it down. I like to place plants in my build, so I really like how you can like change the size of plants. You scale them up, scale them down, however big you want them to be. And I mean, this literally goes so freely and easily. One thing that's really cool about this that I will say and go ahead and call out is that, you know how pesky big plants are in The Sims if they're in a corner? So if you were to grab one of these much larger plants, you know how the leaves clip in? If you toggle that advanced transform tool on, you can actually squish it a little bit to where it's going to proportionally fit a little bit better in the corner. You can turn that back off and move it, and you can get it a little bit more snug in the corner if you want to. I can go ahead and place it all the way up in the corner. Even with all of that clippage that's happening, I can still like fold this in a little bit closer together to make it look normal, which is kind of cool to be able to do something like this, because that's been a pain point in The Sims with some of the bigger plants with putting them in corners. So there's so much customization with this. And obviously with it like this, you could also just go up and down with it as well. So I could squish it back down to be a little bit smaller, and it still looks relatively normal to me. So, you know, there are some really cool customization hacks with this. And then say, for instance, you wanted to put this plant on this desk. So I could actually scale it down to make it at least somewhat normal sized. And then you can see it doesn't go on top of this because it was so big. You hold shift down on your keyboard and you can move items up and down, so you can actually place it on the desk very, very quickly and easily and put that there if you wanted to do something like that. And I'll go over some fun uses of this later in the video with like appliances and cool things that you can do. Now, there are several ways that you can get around this. The way that I did it was I downloaded Microsoft Power Toys, and that's just because I have a Windows PC. And I went into the input output, you click on keyboard manager, and then you're able to remap keys. And more specifically, whenever I click in, this is what it looks like. So if you want to copy mine exact, or you can change whatever you want for your key, this is what it would have to look like. So you select this key, and then over on this side, you put send key or shortcut, and then you have this selected, this asterisk. But there are several external keyboard remapper tools out there. This is just how I did it. So I would just Google up some different programs that can do this. And again, hopefully in the future, they'll actually add a feature for changing the keybind for this. But I will let you know, the Paralives developers team knows about this issue, but if you do use the transform tool and you use it to like move objects around, so like I move it up like this per se or across, they do know of an issue where it actually, for some reason, will move the object randomly sometimes. So I have placed objects with this tool before, and then it's like further back into the wall, or it scoots over outside of the field. Just use it with caution and know that there are tweaks and bugs with this right now, but they are aware of them and they're looking to fix them in the future. And one thing I haven't really talked about, but obviously you can freely rotate objects. You don't have to hold the Alt key down. I'm so used to doing it though. Whenever I play this game, I still hold the Alt key down whenever I'm doing this, but you don't have to. You can freehand rotate these. You can click on this if you want to, but really you don't have to click on the blue arrow to rotate the objects. And then one thing that's really cool to me is with the flooring, you can actually change the orientation of the flooring however you want to. And then on that same note with the ceilings, you can do the same thing. So if I place this ceiling here, I can click on it. And then I can also change the orientation of the ceiling as well. So pretty cool to be able to customize that a bit more. However, I do wish that they would put a 90-degree angle with this to make it a little quicker and simpler, because most of the time I don't want like a diagonal type flooring unless I'm on a diagonal room. And then the last thing for some like basic build controls is obviously to save, like I've been talking about. And in this game, you can press F5 to save. Very easy. Next, we're going to get into some of the cheats that are in the game. So you open this the same way as in Sims. You press Control-Shift-C. And then if you're on Mac, you just press Command-Shift-C. Now, the money cheats, I think, are the most common for us builders in the community. So I'll go over that first. But there are several money cheats. You can press Piggy Bank. And the cool thing with the cheat commands is that there is a menu. So you can like kind of search for what you need and just like see all of the options. Now, I do wish that they would make it to where you could quickly just click on these, but it doesn't work that way. If you click, it'll act as if that's what you were trying to type in, whatever you have there. So you do have to actually spell it out, but it's still nice to have something to reference. So if you use Piggy Bank, you get 1,000 paradigm. There is Make It Rain as well. That gives you 10,000. Then there's Jackpot, which gives you 50,000. There's Lottery, which gives you any amount between 1 and 100,000 paradigm. We got 40,000, not bad on that one. And then there's a Print Money command, which is like if you want something specific. So if I put 60, it'll add $60. And then lastly, there's a Set Money command, which can give you, you know, whatever specific amount that you want. So I put 10 million in, now I have 10 million paradigm. Would love to have 10 million in real life. But these are really helpful, especially even with gameplay. If you want to do rags to riches, like I know some funny cheats come in handy for things like that. If you have a budget build that you're trying to do. So, you know, these are simple things, but there are several different money commands. Now, one thing, I know this is a little bit on gameplay, but I do find it to be really helpful that if you want to relieve all your needs for your para, you can do so by looking up relief all needs. You can do it for all of your characters or the specific one that you have selected. So this is just the one para that I have. So if I press that, it'll relieve all my needs. So hunger, sleep, bathroom, hygiene, everything. Now to demonstrate this one thing, I'm gonna have to demonstrate another cheat. So you can actually set item on fire if you want to. So you go into live mode, you have this. Now, one thing that you can do that's a cheat to get rid of it is you could do extinguish all fires. And it's gone. You just have to make sure you have the item selected when you do this. Set item on fire to demonstrate another thing. So, okay, it's on fire. We go in the build mode. I mean, you could just like delete the item on fire as well to get rid of it. So that's another way that you can get rid of fires. Just wanted to share this. I know it's like a little more on the gameplay aspect, but I think it's really helpful for things like this. I love that we can set things on fire more easily. I don't know if Sims does that. If it does, let me know. I did something really funny months ago where I was trying to burn down an entire house and I had to like keep coming up with different things to set the house on fire. It would have been nice if I could have just done it this way. And then another one that I realized a lot of people don't know, or at least didn't in the first week that the game was out, was going back to edit your para. So if you put in edit character, press enter, you can go back to paramaker to make changes to your para. And then this one also isn't so much for build mode, but I did think it was worth mentioning that whenever you open the cheat menu, you actually have some different things you can do here. And I like that there is a parafolk profiler, and essentially you can like find out more about the paras, and you can also just like find where they are in the town. And then one thing that I think is really cool is how you can actually edit the town. So there's a cheat, it's called toggle edit town. And when that's on, you can literally do anything anywhere. I mean, this is just like debug essentially. You could take this power pole and look how the lines actually go with it. So if I wanted to add one there, I could like do a strand of power lines going up here or something like that if I wanted to. They make it really easy. Obviously I could like rotate it to make it make more sense around that way. So that's really cool. But you can literally go through, if you wanted another bus stop, you just copy it, you know, so you can do things all around the town. And it does come in handy to have that because I have a rug where you can add a picture, and with the blueprint builds that I like to do, it comes in handy for that reason. Because if you want to do it to scale and you want to trace it, I personally don't like tracing it because I like building. But for people who aren't comfortable building, I do think that this is like a really great solution. But oftentimes if you want it to scale, you have to make this super big off the size of the lot. So you would have to have this cheat in order to do it. And I think I still have one of my old blueprints in here. Yeah, here's one of them. So I need to smooth the terrain, but you get the idea. Like you'd have to have that cheat on to draw it to scale, especially on this lot with how small it is. Now, I would caution editing the town right now. I think there are some bugs with that still that happen. So just again, the game is in early access. It's not even been out for 2 weeks as of doing this video. So there's no telling what they're going to improve upon, but I would just caution doing too much editing to the town right now. And like I just did, I've broken my game. So very much still a little bit buggy to edit the town. And now that we're back, I wanted to show one last thing with the toggle edit town on. You can actually edit the shops as well and place furniture down in here. You can do anything that you want to. And I think that's a really nice touch that you can make the shops, and obviously the exterior of the shops your own, but also the interior. So now I want to talk about just a few things really quickly about like building in the world in general. So like I mentioned at the start, we obviously have an open world concept here. So you can literally just zoom in and do anything that you want. So it's nice. You have a little bit of a loading screen up front, but you don't really have too much loading time. And then one thing that I think is really cool is you can literally purchase as many lots as you want. So if I wanted to buy this lot, I already own like 4 other lots. So I can just own the entire town if I wanted to. And then you can just zoom in on any lot that you want to work on. So if you're doing a save file, it's kind of convenient where you can, you know, if you were working on a house over here and building, you can literally just zoom right over here and start building. Again, you don't have to like load into individual lots per se. You can just like do whatever you want to over here and be like, I'm gonna come over here now and I'm gonna like start working on this house and I'm gonna move some stuff around in here. So you can jump around lots so easily. And I think that makes building like an entire save file really cool because it makes it feel a little more dynamic and more realistic. And then I know these are small things, but they are really nice things nonetheless. One thing that I really like about this game is that the lots come in so many different shapes and sizes. In The Sims, they're always square and rectangular. But in this game, you actually get like really fun shaped plots. This one's really cool. It's like a really big plot that's all the way around here. You get a little tiny lot here, but you do get some like rectangular lots as well. But even like in the town, there are fun little lots that you can purchase. Like you could build a townhome here if you wanted to. That's really cool. Very customizable. So I do enjoy the fact that there are different lot shapes and sizes to these. And they're not even all like straight edged lots. They have some angles to them. They're kind of fun, realistic lots. And on that subject, you can notice the outline here. Look how beautiful it is that you can literally go to the edge of the lot. You can actually like build walls along the edge. Like if you wanted to put a wall all the way up against this, you can. You can go to the edge of the lot, which is something you just can't do in The Sims very well. So it's kind of cool to have that, especially whenever you're thinking about things like terrain paint. So if I wanted to put some terrain paint on the ground and it's like a sidewalk, you can actually go to the edge of the lot, which is a game changer because in The Sims, we cannot do that. It's just not placed very well. There's always like extra space between the edge of the lot and like the road or the sidewalk there, so you can't connect it. And on the same subject with the walls, you can do it with fences too, which I think is even more important, is the fact that we can actually put a fence line along our property line. You know, there's not that weird gap or space there. And I think that makes like a huge difference that we can now have a completely fenced in lot like this. It's the small things, you know, it's just the small things that really make a huge difference. And while I've been recording this video, I lost my huge mansion that I have been working on for several streams now. So that's really sad. Thankfully, I have been putting backup saves on my external hard drive, so I only lost one stream's worth of work. But I will say that this is a big issue that Paralives needs to fix immediately, with the saves being corrupted and literally deleting all of your houses. Because I had multiple homes and they are all gone except for the terrain paint. You can see the terrain paint is still there. All of my houses are gone now. Every single one of them. All of the buildings are gone. What happened to my town? My entire town is gone. So my recommendation would probably be to stick with small builds. Stick with smaller builds that you can finish very quickly, and also just save them to your library very often so you can refer to a previous saved version of it. But I'm going to continue. It's not a big deal. Like I said, I have the previous save. I just got to redo a lot of clutter. I mean, a lot of clutter. So say you have some shaped home. Hopefully, ideally, it wouldn't be this shape. But all you have to do is zoom out. You click on this, and then you click over here on this icon. And you can click here, and then you can move this anywhere on the lot. So I feel like it's a little clunky with like getting there, but it is possible to move your entire house. Say I want to move it there. I can move it back up here. So now that we've covered that, I'm going to move now into a section where we talk a little bit more about like the main building aspects of this game. And I think one of the biggest things that obviously is on everyone's radar is the fact that you can do literally any shape. Again, toggling this on and off. You could do a build with curved walls. So to do that, you come up here, click on this, and it does give you a warning. It's early access, so doors and windows can't be placed on curved walls right now, but they do plan on fixing that. So you can like determine the angle that you want to go with and the length, and then once you click down, you just move your cursor, and you can do so many different shapes if you wanted to. Like, this is literally wild to me. You could, I mean, you could spell out a name if you wanted to in cursive and actually do something with that. So there are a lot of cool capabilities with this. This is something that Sims could never do. Not right now anyway. So I think this is like one of the biggest features in the building aspect with like the things that you can do with this game. I'm just thinking back to a build I did in Sims with leaves. It would have been really cool because that actually looks kind of like a leaf. I think it's just nice to not have builds that are primarily boxes with just like curved edges. You could do circular builds as well, but even in Sims, when you do a circle, it's not truly a circle. If you expand it, it starts to become like more like a square with rounded corners, which is kind of funny to say rounded corners because they're not corners, but you know what I'm saying. Now, one thing that's really cool too in this game is that you can actually make walls thicker. So if you click on this right here, you can click up. So you could do something really neat. It's only on this one wall that you drew. So as long as you draw like individual walls, it's only going to be primarily focused on the one wall that you click on. So if I wanted to increase the thickness of just this, it's really nice because then you can actually add like a kind of sunken in front door, which is something that you can't really do well in The Sims either, unless it's like one tile deep. So say I want this to be my front door. Okay, to be fair, I did have the curved wall tool for that. Here we go. It was a straight wall, but I used the curved wall tool, so it's going to read it as that. So if I make this thicker, and then I can grab my door and put a door in, look at that. That's really cool, because then you have like a little bit of a sunken in door here. And if you lower the thickness, like, I just think that's a nice detail. That's something you don't get in The Sims. And one thing that's also cool in Paralives that you cannot do in The Sims is have various structures on the same floor with varied wall heights. And what I mean by that is I can raise this wall on this structure over here, and this is still the original, but they count as the same floor. If I go page up, page down, it's the same floor, even though they're different heights. So you could literally do any height and they're the same floor, which I think is really cool. In The Sims, the whole first floor, no matter what, has to be the same wall height. So there's so much variability with this. Like even within one lot, you could do so many different shaped homes and different heights, and you could have a split level home on one side of the lot and then just have like a normal home on the other side. It's just like really, really cool that you can get so much variability in this game. And then one cool trick that I've come across with doing the blueprint builds is that oftentimes you'll have like a more modern shower, maybe. Now, we can't really do glass doors like this per se. We don't have like a good glass door substitution at the moment. But one thing that you could do is do like a partial wall here. And if you want it to just be glass, thankfully in this game, you can like just pull any window and resize it. So you get the same idea of like a glass wallpaper without needing a glass wallpaper. And you just make it the same height and shape of the wall. And there you go. You have like a see-through glass wall for a shower. If you wanted to do it that way, that's like a good workaround right now. And another cool thing with this is you can do the same thing with like half walls. If you want like a more modern looking fence per se, and you have this area boxed in, you can just take this window, resize it to the height of the wall and drag it across, and it's like a glass modern looking fence. So the amount of like makeshift things you can do in this game is really, really cool. So there's a lot of customization there. You just have to like think about it and how to use it. You have to get out of your Sims brain just a little bit to get used to the new capabilities in this game. Now, another thing are staircases in the game. Now, these are still a little glitchy, and they know that. They have admitted that they still have some work to do on these, but the customization with staircases is pretty cool. So you can like go through the settings here, and you can select alternate versions with like how you want the railing up here, which is so nice because in The Sims, usually when you have a staircase and you have an opening like this, you have to have a railing and then you have to put a fence. First of all, there's not always a matching fence. And second of all, it overlaps with the part of the railing up here. And in this game, there's like a really nice little like bump out and it kind of wraps around. So it's not overlapping. There's no overlay there, which is such a nice feature, but there are different ways you can do the landing up here if you don't want a fence at all, if you want it on one side or the other or all the way around. And I think a lot of people don't know about these functions. And then with the stairs themselves, you can also choose to remove the wall underneath them or do it this way. But you can do that in The Sims sometimes too with staircases. So not different, just a different way to do it. And then you can also, something that we just got in Sims 4 in a recent update, you can choose the railing sides that you want, which is huge that this is early access and already comes with that, or no railings at all. So there are a lot of capabilities with this. Now we'll get into this in just a minute, but you can change the texture of the stairs. You can add different stones, different concretes. If you wanted to make it super weird and it be textiles, like you could make it like an actual carpeted looking stair, which is kind of cool to look at. So there are so many capabilities with this. And again, this is just the staircase. And obviously you can change the color swatches too, which we'll get into that a little bit later. So I actually popped back into the game because I forgot to mention a couple of things. But one thing I did want to mention here is that also with staircases, you can change the width. If you hold down shift and click, you can do it from both sides, or if you just wanted to adjust one side, you don't hold down shift, that's fine too. But you can literally go as wide as you want. It's got very little limitations to it. And then on that same subject matter, I know one big thing that a lot of people are going crazy about that I also think is really cool. I wanted to touch on the fact that our curtains can now also be pretty customizable. Like you can grab a single curtain here, place that on the wall. You can change the height of it very easily. Same thing, hold down shift. You can make it pull from both directions, or you can just pull from one direction. You can flip it, reverse it, however you want to do it, which is true for our cabinets as well. So if I just pull a random cabinet here, you can do like in Sims and get different cabinets. If I put this down, you can flip the side that the knob is on for the cabinet. However, I will caution that not all of the curtains do this very well if you're trying to adjust them. So say for instance, I want to do this one and make it longer. It's a little glitchy, doesn't work very well. So you have to kind of be particular with ones like that, but like if you have shades, you can have some of them be up, down. Like I like the variability with this a lot. So much so that I wanted to pop back into the game and record this because I had a feeling I get a lot of comments about this whenever I ask like what's something I didn't cover. It's like, well, yeah, I definitely love this too. Now, one thing that I like to do in my builds, especially with open floor concepts, is like if I want to have a different thing in the kitchen, like just pretending like we're doing a kitchen right now, and I were to grab this counter and drag it across. Okay, so my kitchen, which first of all, isn't that really cool that you can do that? But my kitchen wall's here, but it's like a wall, right? So in the game, if you wanted to add a wallpaper or like paint to the wall, the whole wall would be selected because it's just the way it's closed off. Now, to get around this, there is what they call the separator tool, and it's basically an invisible wall. And then once you place that there, you can go in and you can like separate the rooms out. So it is like a kind of clunky way because in Sims we're used to being able to go by each tile. But obviously, I think the reason why we can't do this is because you can turn the grid on and off, and not everything is going to be so on the plane. So I think it's a little bit harder for the game because you could have a wall that's like as short as like that, you know, and it's not a full tile. So I think it's just the way the game reads into some of this type of stuff. But on that same subject, if you wanted to use a platform, this is the same way that you would do that. So you use the separator tool, you click here, and you can raise this up higher. And then you can also delete the actual separation, but just know that it will place your paint and stuff everywhere else on the rest of the wall and get rid of the platform, etc. So you do kind of have to keep the separation there if you want it that way. And obviously the same is true for the flooring as well as with the walls. So if you want a different flooring for the kitchen to be tile, use the separator tool. Now, another thing that I have seen is the whole thing with foundations. Don't even get me started. The very first day that I played this game, I literally sunk the terrain down on this and built up a wall, like a normal sized wall, and then leveled the terrain back up and then changed the height of the wall to stick up above it. I'm just so used to having my Sims 4 brain because at the time I didn't think about lowering the wall heights. I thought we could only make them taller. So I'm going to demonstrate this very quickly. So if I lower the walls here, that's my foundation, and then you can easily just build on top of it. And this can be your main floor. So the cool thing with this that I think is cool anyways is if you paint this separately, you can hold shift down to go all the way around and say this is our house color. With the thickness tool, you can make this look more like a foundation by doing this, and it makes it have that like natural lip where it's a little bit different. It looks weird when it's like flush with the house like this. So I would recommend if you want it to serve as a foundation, do something with the wall thickness to just make it look a little more like a foundation. And it's a really nice touch that you can do with that. And obviously you can make it like if you want it to be brick, you can make it brick, you know, so really, really neat. And then on top of that, it isn't that difficult either to do this with a rounded wall. So if I have this here and then I wanted to add like a rounded wall space of some sort over this way and then connect it to that. It is a weird shape, but you can easily connect your walls over this way. I will say sometimes it will automatically snap over to the curve. Other times it does not. In this instance, it is not doing it because you can see I'm trying to like attach it here. So what I do is I go ahead and like attach this side there, and then usually from that point forward, when you connect the other side, it'll show the curve automatically and put it that way. I think it's just because with certain curves, it's easier than others. So let me try something that maybe isn't so bizarre. Yeah, so see, like sometimes you don't have to do that, but just in case it's not automatically snapping over, do the 2 straight lines first and then try to connect the curved one and it'll automatically fill it in. And then another thing with this right now that I personally I like, but I also don't like is that you can duplicate a floor, but if you have a floor plan in it, it will also duplicate the floor plan. So you see how I built that wall in? I go up another floor, it's still keeping that wall. So I would like it in the future where you can actually just duplicate the actual shape of the floor and it just be open. That way you can, if you wanted to duplicate a specific room, then you can click on it and just duplicate that room. But right now we just have it this way, which is fine. It's early access. I get there are a lot of functions that they're probably going to add later in the game, but this is just a personal preference of mine. And on this subject, it's really interesting because I've seen so many different answers for the number of floors that you can have. Some people say 25, some have said 40, some have said like hundreds. So genuinely, I don't know the answer to that. Right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if I were to just like keep duplicating 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
A few moments later.
37, 38, 39, 40. We're at 40 and you can't even see it because we're so high up on this hill. I don't know how many you can get, but you can get a lot. That's all I'm going to say. You can build skyscrapers in this game if you want to. And that is very different from Sims because in Sims you're limited to like, I think it's 4. And you can break it in the Sims. You can get like higher floors if you put a circular room down, like a closed room that is a full circle, and then copy it. You can paste it on top and get like a 5th floor. I've done that before in my builds as well. You can go higher up, but you don't need any workarounds in this game, and it doesn't have to be a round room. Like we would never be able to actually do a skyscraper in The Sims 4, not a true one. Now I'm going to move over into talking about the paint, the terrain, the floors, ceilings, and like different swatches of things. One thing that I think is really pretty right off the bat is I love the terrain paint. I think the terrain paint is really cool with like how it's actually 3D. And I appreciate that a lot more. Like it's actually up off the ground. It makes landscaping super, super easy. If you wanted to just do a big field of flowers, you could put trash if you want to do like a nasty lot that you have to clean up. There are some like mods you can download for some other terrain paints that are pretty cool, which are really easy to do in the workshop. With all the terrain paint in The Sims 4, it's all like flat 2D. But if you come onto a lot, just one thing is you just click on this plane swatch. If you want to remove all of the like landscaping and terrain paint that's already there, this is how you do it. It's not necessarily like an eraser tool per se. This is just how you clear the lot though, with everything else that's on it if you want it to be grassy. And one thing I've noticed whenever I've used terrain paint is I kind of like with this one, you can see that there's some different coloration on the edges. In The Sims, you kind of have to layer terrain paints if you want there to be different colors. I've had this glitch happen before where the A and the D keys change time when I'm just trying to move around. There's some weird stuff that happens, but I do think this is a nice feature where you get some shading that's included with the terrain paint. Now, on the subject of this as well, I do hope in the future that they add a square terrain paint. I don't like that we can only do circular terrain paint right now. I think it makes it hard to make certain things look pretty and nice and clean and neat. I don't want a sidewalk to be with rounded edges. It's kind of weird. It does have a little bit of a lag sometimes if you try placing it too quickly. Getting into the subject matter of like swatches of things, I don't know why I want to build a room, but I do. Oh my god, do I actually have to go down the whole number of floors?
A few moments later.
Oh, we got there. Oh my god. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know that I think is really, really cool is if you have a wallpaper, like even a stone, if I do a stone, if you hold the Alt key down, you can actually change pieces of furniture and the columns. You can change the texture of the columns. The cushions could be this stone. If I have like a fun print of a wallpaper, like you can put it on the furniture as well. It doesn't always work super well, but there are some fun aspects to doing stuff like this that I think would be interesting to see the capabilities of more in the future. I don't know why the colors are doing that. So again, it's a little clunky, but You can do some really interesting stuff with this, but especially for your columns, if you want like a brick column or something to that effect, you can easily do that. And obviously, if you change the color of the brick, it still applies to the column as well. And while I'm on the subject of columns, I think it's really cool that you can stretch columns out as much as you want to. This is a game changer. I do hope in the future they fix to where if you have textures, they don't stretch the textures all the way. And I know that's because I placed a wallpaper down technically on this, so it's a little finicky because I did that. If I went back and grabbed the original column, it probably wouldn't be as big of a deal. So I'll take this, and it's got like a wood grain on it. It's not as weird looking. It's still kind of weird though. But I do love that we can do this. We can make them smaller, which is something we can't do in The Sims. So, kind of cool to be able to have that level of customization. Now, one thing that I've been seeing some people have issues with whenever they're doing like a porch with columns that I want to demonstrate is they'll do this and they'll do their foundation like this where they like shrink it down and then they try to build on top of it. And let's say that you're already like keeping in mind your porch. So you like come here, you stop, you come around this way, and you're like, oh, there's my porch. It's right here. Now, if you were to grab a column, what's going to happen is it sinks down, right? Now, this is fine. You can get around this. And the trick with this to make sure, also, isn't it cool that you can like alt place columns in the first place? Again, something that you can't do in The Sims 4. Anyway, to get around this, all you have to do is get your separator tool and you place your separator tool around the same boundary. And then there you go. You should be able to place your columns. So I did want to put this out here because I think some people are struggling with that. So you can see it's not sinking into the floor anymore. There are so many different orders to do this though. This is like a very specific use case, but just letting you know that there is a way to get around that. So you don't have to like rebuild the house or start all the way over. Okay, so just for an example here, we have this ottoman. You can change the colors. One thing that I think is really cool that a lot of people aren't really diving into is the fact that you have different options to look at the colors. So this is the default and you can change like the color here. You can change the saturation of it, whatever. There are more technical terms with hue and all of that. I get it. But you also have like a grid that you can select and like kind of click through colors if you just want to like find a specific type of color really quickly and not have to worry about changing the color wheel. With this one, it's kind of cool because the color wheel is the ring, and then this is how you kind of change your saturation a little bit. So it's similar to this. It's just with this, you can't really see the exact color that you're going for. I just wanted to point that out though, that there are 3 different ways that you can just look at colors. Say I want to put this sink and say I want to create a new swatch. I'm going to make it this color and I'm going to change the faucet to this green. If I were to pull another one later in the game, that swatch is saved forever and I can always go back to the swatch that I initially created. It will be there. And then there's also objects like I think with shelves, you can do something similar where if you pull a shelf and you create a custom, I've been playing this a lot. If you create a custom color, let's make this like a very obvious green color. But once you have this color, what's kind of cool is you can pull a different object entirely and then go to the swatches and you'll have the same swatches on this object as you do for this one. So you can match swatches a little more easily with similar objects. Now, I will say there's a glitch where it's not showing the correct one, but like this is the same green color, but obviously the swatch itself is showing like this tan color, or I guess that's more of a beige. Either way, they still need to fix this. And I think that's like one glitch that I would like to have fixed ASAP, because obviously if you can't see the colors that you actually want to use, that's a little problematic. You can go in, click this, and then you can like right click on the swatch and go in and copy the code here if you want the color code. There are so many different things you could do. Obviously with these, you can also change the materials. We have woods, textiles, rock and stones, ceramics, metals, plastics, weaves and wicker, miscellaneous. One thing that I do think is really cool as well with clutter is they have these photo images that you can use. So you literally pull the frames and you can upload any images that you want. I have been using Pinterest quite a lot for this now, and I have uploaded quite a few pictures. But I will say this is a really, really cool functionality with choosing different photos and uploading photos that you want to add to the game. I did a movie theater recently in a build, and I pulled like different movie posters that I thought was really cool to put in. And then you can change this to fit inside the frame, which will stretch the image sometimes. And that's because you can literally change this to any height or width for the most part. So you can make the image fit. You can add a matte, which just adds this border around it, which is kind of cool, very fancy. I think that's really nice customization. And then of course you can change the color of the frame if you wanted to as well. It's an overwhelming amount of customization in this game in a fun way. Also, if you're like me and you find inspiration or color that you like, even in the game, one thing that you can do if you're on a Windows PC is you can do Windows Shift C and it'll bring up your like color hex here, and all you have to do is like click and it automatically will copy the color that you selected. So now that we have the customization in Paralives, I think this is like something that is a very big game changer that's really quick for you to use as an eyedropper tool to get any color that you want to match something else. Just something that I think you should know about if you want to use it. One thing I also want to call out is that even with some objects like this one, you can change the text. This says leave. You could say welcome. You could say subscribe. I think it's really fun to be able to do things like this, and you can change the color, obviously. And again, you can just resize objects into different shapes. Like for this, that's so cool to change the table size. For this, it actually goes in, so it decreases the diameter of the circle, which is a really cool way to do that. Couches, you can extend them however long you want to. Beds are the same way. Cabinetry's the same way. I literally used a column one time to make it a custom mantle by rotating it this way and then raising it up and putting it up against the fireplace. So I like had my own kind of custom mantle. There's so many things that you can do in this game that are so cool. One other feature that I want to talk about is with window placement and some objects, but with window placement, you can see this horizontal blue line comes up, and that is to ensure that it's centered to the room if it's vertical, but horizontal if it's with other windows, and that works across other walls. So it'll literally show you a line as I'm going around. Oh, it's the same height as the windows on the other walls, which is a really nice touch. Now, where it loses me a little bit with this is that with lighting, it's a little obnoxious because you'll put a light up here, but there's no way to make it level. You have to kind of eyeball it, which I do not like at all. I'm very like my brain is so much on perfectionism, so I have to make sure that they're the same height. The only way I have gotten around this is if I duplicate the object and try my absolute best to overlay it perfectly. I'll turn the transform tool on and then I'll slide it across. That is the only way right now that I can think of getting it as precise as possible. So I hope in the future that they do something to help with other objects to be placed the same way. And that's true for ceiling lights as well. So I have this issue too, where if I want to have, you know, a few lights kind of placed together over my peninsula, for instance, in my kitchen, say I want to have like 3 lights across, there's no way to line them up. Again, you kind of have to like try your best to overlay the object. That's what I do. And then you go in, select one, advanced toggle the transformation tool and scoot it over. And that's like the only way I can think of doing this, which is a little bit finicky. I'd rather not have to do that. Also, can we just talk about real quickly like how cool it is you can adjust the height of lights like this in this game as well? I think it would be really cool if capable in the game, when we close off a room, you can actually toggle on and off a grid that's on the wall. And that's just so you can snap things on the wall up and down to get them at least to a relative height, kind of like in The Sims 4, where things kind of, you can count how many times up they go. But like I said, some objects you do still get that. Like whenever I was placing the pictures here, they will like show the horizontal line like this is centered to that picture. It helps with that, but with lights and other objects, it doesn't do that. So I would like to be able to do that more easily. With shelves, they'll snap more easily. Like you can get them the same height. That's awesome. Can we just get something with lights? On the subject of lights, one thing that I think is really cool that I don't see a lot of people working with as well is how you can actually customize the lighting like in The Sims 4 as well. So if I were to put this wall light, for instance, you click on this it's under the swatch. So you still have to click on the swatch, but you go to bulb and you can change, like if you want a warmer light, you can go that way. And then you can see it at nighttime. Look at this. You can change the lights just like in Sims 4. It's a little bit hidden in a way. I don't know why you can do this, but you can change the actual material of the bulb itself if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to, but look at that. It's stone. So even the bulbs you can customize in this game, which is saying something. One thing I want to show that's a little bit tricky, I think, is if you want to put a microwave over a stove, you can make this functional. So like, let's say this is our stove. I'm gonna bring this over here. One thing you cannot do it this way. You cannot put it on the ground and then raise it up. So like if you wanted to do something like this, it's not going to be functional if you raise it up with the shift key or if you use the advanced transform tool. So even if you place it down here, click on it and raise it up this way and use the arrows to guide it into the right direction, it's not going to work that way either. We go into live mode and then you go to cook. You can't choose the microwaved hamburger. And that's a good indicator that it's not functional that way. So what you have to do is you actually need to set it down first on a surface. So if you were to take the microwave and place it like on top of the stove here, and then raise it up, put it there, then it should be functional. So if you go here, you can come cook microwaved hamburger. We'll do a single meal portion and you can use it that way. The animation's a little glitchy because it's still reading it as sitting here, but you have to put it on a surface first. So that's just like a little bit of a trick if you're going to put the microwave above the oven with the cabinetry built in. It is functional though. So wanted to share that with you. And then lastly, I do want to show something that's really cool is you can make this a functional mini fridge if you wanted to and put that there. You just bring it down with the advanced transform tool. And then I'm going to go ahead and place a microwave on top of that as well. We'll plop that there and I'll show you that it is also functional this way. Look at that. Now, again, the animation is not going to be quite right, but it is really cool that you can do that. I mean, you could even make it really, really tiny if you wanted to. Like, let's shrink this in. Just imagine if you had like a tiny home challenge or something and you wanted to do something like this. Isn't this absolutely crazy looking? We come in here, cook. You can still use it. That's just so funny to me. And it doesn't look super wonky whenever it's sized down like that. So that's just a really cool thing to me that you can do something like that. Like tiny homes, not a problem. That will not be a problem in this game at all. One other level of customization with the counters that I want to go through with you real quick is if you click on this pencil icon, you can actually change the handles. And I got a lot of comments on one of my videos before, so that's why I wanted to include it here. But there are multiple options for handles. And then, of course, whenever you go into the swatches, you can change the color of the handles and the texture material that you want to use. So there's like so many things that you can do with this. It's unreal with the customization. This isn't one that you can change the countertops on, but there are others that you can change the countertops on, like these. These countertops can be changed. So it's like every object has like different levels of customization to them. I could make this video 10 hours long so easily to go through every single one. I won't do that, obviously, but just letting you all know that the capabilities with this game are really awesome for it to be in early access. I mean, we're getting so much up front with this, and I'm glad that the Paralives team is going to focus a lot on bugs right now as well, with making sure the game's actually functional before they add a lot more content to the game. And of course, one of the most important things in the game to make sure that it does work correctly is that you can place a toilet paper roll and you can change the way of the toilet paper. I mean, this is the correct way, but if you want to be incorrect, then you could place it this way. Now we're going to move into like some build mode bugs that are known and like some early access warnings that I have for y'all. Obviously, I've talked about this transform tool so much, but just know that there are issues if you use the transform tool right now to move objects, that they do like float then they disappear sometimes, they move around, they're not saving in their exact position if you use it. So I would say use it with caution right now with what you're doing. I think it's more so for moving objects, not necessarily squishing them. And the issue with this too is that usually undo does not work with this issue. So again, this goes back to what I said at the start with using autosave. I would really strongly recommend you not use autosave right now because you're going to more than likely autosave a mistake somewhere, and it can sometimes cost you if you're not careful. The next thing I want to show you is actually called the plugin hub, and you'll see I have this up here. This will not be in your game by default, and it is something you have to download and put into your files. I'll post the link to this down below, but it's called the plugins index. The main reason I downloaded this is because you may have heard that there is a limit on mods. You can only have 50 mods right now. Now, I know this is currently going to be a temporary issue. I saw an update just today, I think it was, where Paralives mentioned that they are trying to have a fix for this. I don't know if that fix is going to add a higher limit at all, or if it's going to completely remove it. But right now, you can use this plugin hub to completely remove any limitation on the amount of mods that you use in the game. And the issue right now is that typically if you have more than 50 mods, it'll start disabling other mods that you have. It can start to kind of like cause a little chaos if you have a lot of mods already. But all you have to do here is go over and click on this to download the latest one. Just make sure you download the right one if you are using Mac or Windows. So you come over to Paralives here, you click manage, and you look at browse local files. It'll bring this window up right here. This is where you want to paste all the files that are in that zip file. So that's why you'll see I have extra stuff that you won't have in yours. Once you paste it here, you'll have the plugin hub in the game. And then you'll see right here, this is called Not Enough Workshop Mods. And this is the one that will be active automatically to then remove the cap of mods in your game. And if you're not familiar with where to get the mods, whenever you're in Paralives, you click on Workshop right here. And then you can go in and look at mod packs, and then you could go even further in to look at all the items, and all you have to do is click this button, subscribe to download. Like if you want this tech clutter, click subscribe to download, and then you have it in the game the next time you load your game in. And I think that's way more streamlined than it is in The Sims 4. However, there is a caveat to this. Use them at your own risk. If you ever get stuck with the loading screen, if it's not showing the bar, or if it is showing the bar and the bar isn't moving anymore, what you'll want to do is check your log file. So I want to go into this because this happened to me, and I think it'll be easier if everyone knows like how to handle this. Now, to get to this, you're going to want to go to your actual C drive. You're going to go to users. This is my username. You're going to then go to app data. If you don't see this app data file, you're going to have to go to view, show, and then click on hidden items. So once you click on app data, you go to local low, and then Paralives. Click Paralives again, and here's a log. So if you go through your log, it'll show you what's happening and why the game's not loading. And you might see something like this, which is one of the examples. And it was because it was a mod file that was on a failure loop and it wouldn't load the asset. So you take that information, you go in and you can unsubscribe from that specific mod in the mods menu and then try it again. I had to do this twice because after that, my loading bar started to show up, which was great because I wasn't even getting that. But then it would stop and not load anymore. And so I went back to my log, saw it was another mod object that I then had to also remove from my game, and then it loaded fine. Just wanted to put that out there. It's a little bit tricky, but you know, use mods at your own risk right now. And just really quickly, antivirus software can also cause this issue. So you might want to check on that as well to see if it's potentially enabled and not letting the game actually load. And lastly, I want to get into some fun Easter eggs and maybe some cool extra bonus things. So one nice little Easter egg is that clocks in this game can actually tell time in real time in the game. So if you look at this, it's 9:22. 923, they actually move. And I think that's such a nice actual like functional object in the game. Is it functional at that we need it? No, but it's a really nice detail that we just don't get in Sims, that the clocks tell time. And you can resize these too. I know they're giant, but you can size them down. Now on the same subject, if you do not like clowns, don't watch this part. I'm gonna get some of this clown stuff put in here, get the little chair, and then we'll also get the clown fridge. And there's a fun little Easter egg with this. Oh, I gotta size this up as well. So I know some of y'all might not like clowns, but I did want to like show this, what happens whenever it gets to be 1 o'clock in the morning. So check this out. So this stuff like sticks their tongues out, and then the clown gets like an evil face. So that's like a fun little Easter egg. From 1 to 3 in the morning, you get an evil clown. Now, one thing I did want to show y'all really quickly is how he's never happy. He's like always pissed off. I don't know what his problem is, but we have this photo mode, and you can literally change the time of day, like every single minute of the day you're able to change. You can change the animation of your para, which is absolutely crazy, which is great for me because he's always mad, but I can make him look more pleasant. So you can do anything with your para basically. And there's a search function. We have the Among Us ejection, which is hilarious. Like if I pull this up, like you know how like in the game you get ejected and you float off? That's just so funny to me. You can make your para do that. But look at him. Now he's pleasant. Look at that smile. Look at him all happy. You can make him walk. I love that you can do that. The customization with this is really fun for like photos you want to put in your house, if you want to take pictures for that reason. The nice thing with this too is that on the workshop, when you upload your builds, you're able to upload thumbnails that you want of your build. So you don't have to rely, like in The Sims 4, on the crappy pictures that they auto generate on certain lots. You can just use whatever photos you take. You can showcase your build how you want to. You can even like censor your para. So like if I wanted to censor the bottom and knees, I could do that. And I could change the way that it is censored, which is absolutely crazy to me. I feel like a lot of people don't know about this. That's not really that censored, but it's really funny to me. The capabilities with this are really cool. You can change the depth of field, which is crazy. Sometimes I like to have pictures where it's like the background is blurred, but the house is sharpened, and you can like do some really cool things with that. You can change the filter intensity. Obviously I showed this at the start, but these are the same filters that we have in the accessibility panel for the colors and stuff with color blindness, as well as just adding some filters in that you want to use in the game. And then all you have to do is just press P and it takes the picture like that. I will say that in my last blueprint build video, it did the shutter effect like this, and when it came back, all of the changes were gone. It was as if it started from the save file that I loaded into. Super weird. I lost all my progress. So there are definitely some big issues with this game with like the saves and the save files. That's been my biggest thing. Even while doing this video, I literally lost my mansion that I've been working so much on. I have an older version of it, but at this point I'm kind of like, I don't feel like doing all of the clutter again. But here, what I'm going to do is show y'all some really fun cheats that they have in the game. Now you can just put bear, and it'll actually show a bear here, which is kind of fun. It's cute, doesn't really do anything, but just like a nice little built-in thing that you may not know about. There is one that's like 8-ball. So you can put 8-ball and then ask it a question. Should I subscribe to Dr. Sims? The stars say no. So there you have it. Don't subscribe. The 8-ball has spoken. You can put in hotel and it'll give you Trivago, which is, I don't know what else to say. That's the cheat. And then there's like a spin wheel that you can do, which is really cool if you want to have some built-in challenges. You can set it to 25% for the capability of something, if you want something to be randomly decided for you. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's a cute little built-in command. And then lastly, I want to go back to edit character and show y'all something that I think is bizarre. Once we have the cheat menu, if you type in randomize all deformations, it'll give you some pretty crazy things. Oh my god, this is hilarious. But you can do that so many times. It literally will just randomize like beyond the normal slider limits for things. And I know that's not building related, but I just think it's absolutely hilarious, the things that you could do with that. I could literally do this for hours, I feel like. But how fun, like, is it that you could just do so many things with this? Oh my god. You could just do something fun with your community where it's like, oh, no matter what, this is the pair I'm gonna stick with, and that's what you get. So it's just like, what the heck is going on? And on that note, I think that's a wrap on this video. Let me know your thoughts and like things that maybe I didn't discuss that you think are really cool about the game or that you're enjoying. Obviously, there are still a lot of things that need to get fixed in this game. It is early access. It is very normal for an early access game to have bugs. I do think that there are some things that they're doing really, really well that is incredible to have for early access as far as building capabilities. I know, even though I don't do gameplay, that a lot of concern is there for the gameplay with it being lacking, which is understandable. But I do think that the building capabilities are just like way beyond The Sims 4 in so many ways, especially for early access. And as a builder, I know I'm biased, so I definitely love the game from that aspect. I don't have a lot of complaints because I don't necessarily see myself doing a ton of gameplay. I would like to do gameplay more in the future, but that's not something that I'm really weighing in my decision right now with this game. Sorry, I just keep looking at that para and it's kind of creeping me out. But I hope you found this helpful and I hope it's a good reference for you in the future. There's no telling what they're going to change in the future, so some of this might not even be relevant a month from now. Who knows? But if you made it to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And as I wrap up, I just want to thank my channel members. Thank you so much for the monthly support. It really goes a long way. And if you want to check out that blueprint build where the photo mode completely destroyed it, I'll put that over here for you. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye. Y'all, I'm sorry if this was a lot of information thrown at you, but I hope it was at least helpful.